Jungle Cave Toxic Air Guide Escape. On August 3rd, 2022, 4 backpackers followed a local guide into the thick jungle of Borneo. They had each paid $40 for a private tour of a wild river cave. Their guide, a man named Amir, promised them something ordinary tourists never see, a hidden lower gallery filled with ancient rock formations. What he did not tell them was that the lower gallery was closed for a reason. The cave was home to millions of bats, and their waste released dangerous gases into the air. In the dry season, carbon dioxide sinks and collects in the lowest passages like an invisible lake. Park rangers had marked the lower gallery with warning signs years earlier. Amir led the group straight past the signs. Old cave guides carried a simple safety trick. Keep a flame burning, and if it dies, you run. Amir carried no flame, no gas meter, and no radio. The group climbed down into the lower gallery one by one. The air down there felt warm and strangely heavy. Within minutes, a backpacker named Sophia said she felt dizzy. Then a young man named Daniel dropped to his knees, gasping. Their bodies were starving for oxygen, but the danger had no smell and no color at all. Amir understood instantly what was happening. He shouted one word, climb. 2 of the backpackers managed to pull themselves up the slope toward better air. Sophia and Daniel collapsed near the bottom, and Amir made his choice. He climbed past his own customers and crawled out of the cave alone. The 2 survivors dragged themselves out almost an hour later, weak and vomiting. They expected to find rescuers waiting outside. Instead, they found nobody. Amir had not called for help. He was afraid of losing his license and going to jail for entering the closed gallery. He waited almost 4 hours before finally telling the park rangers. By the time a rescue team with air tanks reached the lower gallery, it was far too late. Sophia and Daniel had suffocated inside a cave full of air that could not keep them alive. Amir was arrested and charged over their deaths. He told the police he had left the cave to find help. The 2 survivors told a different story. Their guide had simply saved himself first. Lava Tube Tour Headcount Abandonment. On September 19, 2019, a tour van stopped beside an old lava field on the Big Island of Hawaii. 11 tourists climbed out, ready to explore a famous lava tube cave. One of them was Rachel, a 34-year-old photographer traveling alone from Oregon. Their guide was a young man leading his 3rd tour of the day. The lava tube was a long, black tunnel formed by rivers of melted rock thousands of years ago. Inside, the walls swallowed every bit of light. The guide handed each person a small flashlight and gave them one clear rule. Stay with the group because the tube has side passages that lead nowhere. Rachel kept stopping to photograph the strange rock formations. Near the deepest point of the tour, she knelt down to capture one perfect picture. The group turned back toward the entrance without her. At the gate, the guide was supposed to count every head, but he was tired, and the exit was crowded with shadows. He counted fast, wrote 11 in his logbook, and swung the heavy steel gate shut. The padlock clicked, and the vans drove away. Deep inside the tube, Rachel stood up and realized all the lights were gone. She called out, but only her own echo answered her. Her flashlight flickered, and the battery was already half dead. Her phone had no signal this deep under the rock. She began walking toward where she thought the entrance was. But in total darkness, every direction feels exactly the same. Rachel drifted into a side passage without even knowing it. A few hours later, her light died completely. The darkness around her was thicker than closed eyes, and she kept moving with her hands on the walls, growing colder and more confused. Then, somewhere in the black, the floor simply dropped away. Rachel fell nearly 15 feet into an old collapse pit and landed on sharp volcanic rock. Badly injured, she could no longer climb or even crawl. Back in town, the guide never rechecked his logbook. Because Rachel was traveling alone, nobody reported her missing for 2 whole days. When searchers finally unlocked the gate, they found her camera bag first. On the 3rd day, they found Rachel at the bottom of the pit, just 2 passages away from the exit. She had died only hours before they reached her. One lazy headcount had locked a living person inside a mountain. Underground Labyrinth, off-route abandonment. On October 12, 2018, 3 traveling friends arrived at an ancient underground city in central Turkey. The city was carved into soft volcanic rock thousands of years ago, with tunnels sinking 8 floors below the ground. Tourists were only allowed on the marked route where electric lights and arrows showed the way. Beyond that route lay hundreds of dark tunnels that even the staff had never fully mapped. Near the ticket gate, a local man named Emre offered the friends a special deal. For $50, he would show them the closed sections after the site shut down for the evening. Emre said he had played in these tunnels since he was a boy and knew every turn by heart. The 3 friends agreed, excited to see what other tourists never could. That evening, Emre led them through a staff door and down into the unlit levels. Their phone lights danced across ancient walls and huge stone doors shaped like wheels. For an hour, the secret tour felt like the best decision of their whole trip. Then they heard voices. A night security patrol was moving somewhere above them. Emre whispered that if he was caught down here, he would lose everything. He told the group to wait in a side room and stay completely silent while he checked the path. He slipped into the darkness, and the sound of his footsteps slowly faded away. The friends waited 10 minutes, then 30, then a full hour. Emre never came back. He had climbed out through a passage only he knew and gone home, telling himself they would find the way. The three friends began searching for the exit on their own. But every tunnel looked exactly the same, and their phone batteries were falling fast. They walked in circles through rooms carved 1,000 years apart. By the second day, their phones were dead and their water was gone. In the blackness, a man named Marcus slipped on a worn stone staircase and struck his head. His two friends stayed beside him in the dark, shouting for help that never seemed to come. On the surface, hotel staff finally reported the group missing. Security footage showed the three friends entering with Emre, and showed Emre walking out alone that same night. Rescue teams with lamps and maps swept the tunnels for 2 days. On the third day, they heard weak voices rising from a lower level. The two friends were carried out alive. Freezing, dehydrated, and barely able to speak, Marcus had died from his head injury the night before the rescuers arrived. Emre was arrested at his home that same evening. He told the judge he thought the tourists would simply follow the lights back to the exit, but he had left them in a part of the city where no light had burned for 1,000 years. Ozark Spring fake instructor, Abandonment. On June 21, 2014, two college friends arrived at a freshwater spring deep in the Ozark Hills of Missouri. Their names were Tyler and Jason, and they had just finished their basic open water diving course. They had never been inside an underwater cave in their lives. At the local dive shop, they met a man named Rick, who called himself a cave diving instructor. Rick had no cave instructor license, only a business card and a confident smile. For $120 each, he offered to take them somewhere special. A flooded cave passage below the spring, where the sunlight turns the water glowing blue. At the cave entrance, 20 feet underwater, a metal sign was bolted to the rock. The sign showed the Grim Reaper and a warning. "Stop! Divers have died here." Rick swam past the sign without even slowing down. The two students followed him, because that is what students do. A thin white guideline ran along the cave floor, the only path back to daylight. Rick led them deeper until the passage was 200 feet from the entrance. Then Jason's fin kicked the silty floor. Fine brown mud exploded upward like smoke. Within seconds, the crystal blue water turned into liquid darkness. The students could not see their own hands in front of their masks. This is called a silt out, and cave divers trained for years to survive it. Rick had trained for it too, and he knew exactly how to save one person. His own hand found the guideline in the dark, and he followed it out alone. He did not grab his students' hands. He did not stay and share his air. He simply disappeared into the mud cloud and swam for daylight. Tyler and Jason were left blind, 200 feet inside the earth. They swept their arms through the darkness, searching for the thin white line. Their air gauges ticked down with every panicked breath. Rick surfaced in the sunny spring, sat on the grass bank, and waited. He told himself they would find the line, just like he had. They never did. Rescue divers recovered Tyler and Jason 2 days later, 30 feet apart, their tanks completely empty. Both of them were within arm's reach of the guideline they could not see. Rick was arrested and later sent to prison for their deaths. In court, he was asked why he swam out without his students. He answered, "There was nothing more I could do for them." The judge reminded him that he was the only person in that cave trained to do everything.